Hey there, friends. Let me show you where I'm at right now. We are at the Green Mills, going for a prayer walk. Such a beautiful day. This will be the time to come out and enjoy. We have a lot of people out today. Yeah, it's actually a very beautiful place. The water is not clean, of course. The river we are walking by right now is the Schuylkill River. I'm at the Green Mill Trail. This trail takes us all the way. It's almost like a good maybe 5 miles going into Reading. But here we have a very interesting, beautiful look here. We have a few tables at the end of the trail, a little bit before the end, shall I say, where we're gonna sit and have our devotion, read the Bible, have a word of prayer, spend time with Jesus. This is good, man. I have to do this. Spend so many hours in the studio. It's not good for your mind, you know. So going for walks like this is really good. It really helps to, and again, spending time out in nature. And I love to do this on the Sabbath as well. Just take the family and the children out, and here we are meditating on the word and just using what's happening in nature as object lessons. You know, I wanted to bring to your attention this video, right, of this minister. And he is talking about preaching, and I want to get your thought, right? And this minister is saying that a 36-minute sermon is too long for the audience. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you his name and we're not gonna get into his life. Let's just deal with the argument. Now listen too carefully to what he says in this video, and then let's have a conversation.
I just finished the second service at our beautiful Frisco campus. You know, the first service I preached 36 minutes. Way too long. The second service, I did it in 20 minutes and 43 seconds. And guess what? The second message, the 20-minute message, was better than the 36-minute message. So preachers, we preach too long. I guarantee it. Just look at yourself. I preach too long. Once a sermon gets past 25 minutes, I'm so ADD, I lose it. And I started boring myself in this 36-minute one. So keep it tight and everything will be all right. Even, I mean, I'm going through the book of Romans. 20 minutes? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I did it.
Now, one of the questions we have to ask and try to get an answer to, how long is a sermon supposed to be? Because I get it, man. People's attention span is low. Unlike things used to be different back then. But I think if we have to make sure we keep our sermons within 20 minutes range, you know, we're in a bad place spiritually. You know, I get it. Studies have shown that the average attention span for people online is 17 minutes. So you might notice some of my videos stays within that range, which is about 14 to 25 minutes range. I have a few that goes into 30. That's when I'm really pushing it. But oftentimes when I do a YouTube video, you will notice most of them are between 14 to 25 minutes. So they will stay between that mark. But I want to remind you, I'm talking about a YouTube video. You know, I've looked at my analytics. You know, I have to make a video to show you some of this. What it shows, about 70% of the people who watch Advent Media Connect, they will oftentimes watch the first 3 to 5 minutes of the video. Out of that 75%, we have the 25% who will stick till the end. Actually, this is a good thing. Most YouTube channels don't even get that. Guys, look at this beautiful sight. Look at this beautiful sight. I just wanted to show you this. There he is right there. It's a deer. About 20 feet away from me. Absolutely beautiful. Now, let me ask you a question. How long do you love your sermons to be? Comment below. Are you the type of 20 minutes person? 36-minute sermons? Do you mind an hour long? What about an hour and a half? 2 hours long? How long do you prefer your sermons to be? Now, I'm trying to make a difference between YouTube videos, information here and there, highlighting some points here and there. I want to separate that from the preaching of the word. Because once we are preaching, friends, listen, you're talking about one of the most important tasks that you are given to do at the preaching of the word. Why do you go to church, right? I don't go for the music, friends. I don't go for the children's story. I don't go for just to return tithes and offering. I go for the preaching of the word. That's the most important aspect of the entire service. And if the preaching is flat, and sometimes it is, I have to go home and get on YouTube and find something to make up for it. And oftentimes, there's always something out on YouTube to make up for it. So the sermon is very, very important because that's where the conviction and the changing of the heart, that's where repentance takes place. This is where conversions happen, man. And people are given dreams and ideas and visions, and ministry starts from the preaching of the word. It was sermons that brought me to Jesus, man. It was, like the Apostle Paul says, it's through the foolishness of preaching that God will save some of us. So the preaching of the word is extremely important. It's best my minister didn't know how to pray, didn't do any visits. It's best the minister didn't even know my name. But when he comes, he preaches powerful messages that transforms my life. I can work with that. And I'll tell you what, I think also it is the role and the responsibility of the minister to make sure that the sermon that he preaches will captivate the minds of the audience. We have a duty as ministers to know how to present the message in such a way that will make people want to come back and continue to listen. Now, it's good to keep in mind, we're not all the same, right? We're all different individuals. And our preaching style is different as well. You know, we have the expository preachers. We have those who are more informative. We have the type of preacher who's like to teach. We have the charismatic type of preachers. You know, so we have the catechizing, question and answers type of preachers. I'll be honest, I enjoy every single one of them. So I think I'm somewhere between teachings and catechizing and expository. I can be a little bit informative as well. You might notice in my videos, I try to educate, do some historical studies and pull up PowerPoints and make them available. That's part of the informative side and teachable side of me. Charismatic, I can be, depending on the subject. I'm not always for charismatic. It seems to pull, it feeds the emotion more than the intellect. So I'm not so much for it, but I would listen to a charismatic speaker every now and then. Because sometimes they're very good at expounding on the word and also to break down the various concepts that are found in the scripture. So that's the positive side of it. But let me ask you a question. What kind of preachers do you enjoy? Charismatic preachers? Catechizing, question and answers type of preachers who keeps you engaged? You know, expository, right? They take a text and they blow it up. What about the storytelling type of preacher? Like Doug Batchelor, he's a mixture of many of those, but he loved to do good storytelling. That's very good too. It speaks to a lot of people in different way, of course. But I would like to hear from you. What sort of preachers do you enjoy listening to? Now, and also I want to hear, like I've asked earlier, how long do you prefer your sermon to be? You know, are you the 5-minute sermon kind of guy? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? You know, guys, I've sat down and listened to Walter Veith. Walter Veith's lectures are about an hour and a half to 2 hours long, okay? And I remember sitting down and listening to the whole thing. I don't feel bad. You know why? Because some of us, we will watch movies for hours and never complain. So don't come complaining to me about long sermons. I'm just like, but I've seen people watching football games that are 4 hours long. Never complains. With commercials, with ads. So the truth is, it's not a matter of timing is really not the thing here. I think it's interest, engagement, and informative. And let me explain what I mean by that. If the message of the preacher is interesting, right? It's relevant. The individual can get something from it. I think they will listen and watch for a long time. Some ministers are just boring. It's just true. Some ministers are boring, man. It's hard to follow them. And, you know, and sometimes the information is not really hitting the spot for a lot of people. Some ministers are just overdoing it with shouting and screaming. That's not good either. They are overzealous. I'm not a fan of that so much. There's a place for it, but too much of it will drive you crazy. We're going to take a little break under this tent because that's where we're going to do some praying. That's what I was telling you about. Let me set up my system here. You know, if I were to talk to the ministers, what I will say is the timing is not as important so much as the message. And if the message is interesting, it's something that pricks the conscience, I think people will listen. I think people will listen. And when we talk about a subject matter in the Bible, when we make personal application and use what's happening in our world today that people can relate to, and you also have to know the demographic in your audience. You have to know who you're preaching to. You have to know the crowd. Once you know who they are, you need to speak to them. You need to speak at them, about them. You need to speak to them. And I notice that definitely makes a difference. It really pricks interest and compels people to listen. And I also think informative is also good. Your sermons has to inform the mind. It has to, every time a person's listen to your preaching, they got to learn something. At least 10%, at least 5% of your message should be something they've never heard before. I'm kind of careful with this because sometimes you can end up reinventing the wheel. You find yourself talking about things in a way that's not really, the old teachings are not good enough. But I do believe you can take the old teaching, right, and you can still find a way to make them relevant today. And you can go even deeper into context and history and extract other lessons that oftentimes nobody else has talked about. Or maybe they have talked about it, but your audience may not have heard it before. So I do believe the sermon has to be informative. The people must be educated. So there has to be a teaching coupled with preaching in the ministry of your ministers. And I think that will make a difference in how long people engage and listen. The other thing I was thinking is engagement. Engagement is crucial, and one of the ways that I found to engage the audience is to ask a lot of questions and it's to tell stories in between your sermons. You might think telling stories is not good, but even biblical stories, tell the stories. I will do character teachings and preachings. And what I'm really doing, I'm telling a story of a character in the Bible. But what I will do when I tell the story about that character, I will make sure I really zone in on that character and make him very relevant to the mentality and situation of my audience. And I notice that really is good. If you talk about Enoch, David, Methuselah, Asa, you name the king, you do a character study and you really dig into the life of the character and then you make that very relevant. And I think that will create engagement. And what I said earlier is asking questions. And if you're doing what they call catechizing, is question and answers. You ask questions during your sermons. And if you ask questions and you expect the audience to respond, it creates engagement as well. And sometimes it's good to leave them with a hook. And I notice if you give them a hook at the start of your sermon, and they can look for that hook throughout the message. So they have to follow you to get to the end of what that hook is. And sometimes it could be a phrase, it could be the title, it could be something you said at the start and you don't explain it, and then you move into something else. They will follow you to figure out what you meant from the start. So I even do it in some of my videos. I will start with a Bible passage, and I say I'm gonna come back to this passage, right? But before we talk about this passage, watch this. Here is this article, and then at the end I come back to the same passage I started with. That's actually a good way. Is that walk around kind of thing? People will follow you when you do that. It creates engagement because it piques interest and say, what is it explaining? What does it mean by that? And that makes a huge difference as well. So you can actually walk people. You can build one on top of another. I notice that can help, asking a lot of questions, do the walk around. But I think the preacher should not be boring. There are things we can do to make the sermon, the preaching of the word, very interesting. The other thing too is I was thinking is that the audience, for example, the people listening, when you come to church, what are you there to listen to? A church is not a YouTube channel. I tell people all the time, Advent Media Connect is a YouTube channel. It's an online ministry. It's not really a church. I do church things on Advent Media Connect. I do preaching, I do praying, I do interviews, but my family and I go to church on Sabbath and we worship, okay? And we listen to the minister preaching the word. So that's just the truth. So when you go to church or whether you come to a YouTube channel where there's a lot of preaching going on, we do some of that too. The mentality you gotta have is you have to have a hunger and a thirst for righteousness. You really have to desire the sincere milk of the word that you may grow thereby. And if you come with that kind of mentality, it really does make a world of a difference regarding the way you engage in response to the message. These are some of the things that I've learned. And so you got to think about how you think. Listening is a skill, okay? Listening is a skill. A lot of people do not know how to listen. A lot of people know how to talk. They are not good listeners. So that's why I try as much as I can, to do interviews. And in majority of the time in my interviews, I'm listening. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Keep thy foot when thou walkest in a house of God. Be ready to hear, then to offer sacrifices of fools. So there has to be, this mentality has to be, I'm going to church and I'm ready to listen. Now, if you listen carefully, you will not only receive something from the word, but if something is said is not correct as well, you can, pick it up, and you can also assist the minister, because some ministers may not realize during the sermon, sometimes we say things that we're not supposed to say. Okay, so the audience listening is actually very crucial to the direction of the message, and also to the minister's understanding of the text. It really makes a difference. So we need people listening, not only to embrace and appreciate the message and engage with the minister. Say amen. Let him know, not your head, man, not your head. Look at him in the eyes. Let him know You are hearing him. You are listening to him. What he is saying makes sense to you. You turn off your phone. You pray for the minister while he is preaching. All of that plays a role in the way the sermon is delivered. Sometimes the minister can come with a message. By the time he's done, he's preaching something completely different because God's people were praying and there was a message that needed to go for somebody in the church. So that's why praying is important. And sometimes the minister can go a different direction with the message too. That is not always good. Sometimes he leaves his notes behind and do something completely different. I've seen it done, and it's horrible. I'm sad because I'm like, I wasn't praying, so I see why he's doing that. So pray, listen attentively, and come with a hunger and a desire to actually receive a blessing from the man. And also, you also got to be willing to take what you hear from the message and do something with it. And I notice that makes a huge difference. But as far as attention is concerned and how much time we spent listening to a message, it has a lot to do with who we are. It has a lot to do with our mentality. Some people will watch an hour and 20 minutes of my videos. Some people will watch an entire live stream and not complain. They will sit in a chat room and engage with me, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, I love when I see people, and there are a few of you. It's about 20 of you. Out of that 80,000, we have those 20 consistent individuals. Depending on the subject matter, we can get a lot more viewership. Sometimes we're talking about a matter that is very relevant. We may get 1,000 or 500, depending on who is there, the guest and the subject matter. But on average, our live streams are 30 to 100s or maybe to 80 sometime on average. It all depends on the subject that we are talking about. But I noticed there are some people, they can take it, man. Depending on who's preaching, I can listen for a long time. And sometimes even when I cut it off, I will come back. I usually save it and said, I'm coming back to you. I'm going to finish you. And I usually do. I'm actually listening right now to Samuel Tucker. And we've been posting some of his videos on our channel, and you need to listen to the preaching of the word from Samuel Tucker. That brother is good. He knows how to engage the audience. I mean, you can take an issue with this and that, what you like and don't like, and that's normal. We're not going to love our minister 100%. That doesn't happen. There's no perfect men out there. But if you're trying to get Bible truth and you want to be engaged and hear the word of God preached to you, unadulterated, Samuel Tucker is doing a good job, but he does a really good job at engaging the audience too. He does a really good job. Present truth speakers tend to do that. And I really appreciate that about present truth speakers. Precious truths do fine as well. But again, preaching style does make a difference. It does matter. But your mind, my mind, the way we look at the minister, how we think, who we are, has a lot to do with our level of engagement and willingness to listen for a long message. Anyway, so to the minister who says we should only preach 20 minutes message, I don't agree with that. I mean, 20 minutes videos for YouTube and informative Bible prophecy, just want to give you a little appetizer here and keep moving. Yes. But when it comes to the preaching of the word, the gospel, you say, you know what? Give me 45 minutes. Depending on who's preaching, I'll take an hour, an hour and a half, if it's really good and very informative. But 45 minutes is oftentimes my goal. And when I try to preach, that's my goal. I don't always meet it. Sometimes I hit 32 every now and then. You might see a couple 32 minutes sermons on my channel, and like an hour and 55 minutes long. I have a few of those, but 45 is the goal. That's where I stand when it comes to that. So if you watch this entire video, which is about 24 or 25 minutes long, you're one of the good ones. So let me know, did you finish this video? Did you listen to the entire thing? Put it in the comment below, because you deserve a heart and a like from me as well. And I want to say thank you for all your support and for putting up with me and listening to me and also engaging with me. And I really appreciate that. And ministers, and even on YouTube or in the church, we want to know that the people care about what we are sharing. We want to feel like we like to feel significant, right? We want to feel like what we are saying matters, and when you guys let us know stuff like that, it makes a difference. Not to blow our head up with pride and everything like that, but your ministers needs a word of hope, man. They need to know that they are loved and cared for, and I really hope that as I try to do here at Avid Media Connect, I really hope that the stuff that we do is not a waste of time, and it certainly is making a difference in your life spiritually. And if it is, let me know, because we're trying here, man. We're trying to do what we can, and we work hard. We work extremely hard. You just don't know. That's why I'm taking walks in nature. It's good for my mind. Once I'm done here, we're going to the studio. We got interviews scheduled. We got videos lined up. You know, so there's a bunch of stuff to do every single day. So thank you so much for listening, friends. God bless you. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment below. Until next time, have a good one. Bye.